Sec. All right, testing, testing, testing. Can you guys hear me? This is the Lord of the Zombies speaking. Can you guys hear me? And yes, I'm trying to test the microphone. So the microphone works pretty interesting. So give me a second while I try to test the microphone out. So give me a minute. All right, so far I'm gonna probably just say, I guess the microphone's gonna take some time to get used to with the signal bars now, but let's see how long it's going to probably do and see how interesting it's going to probably be. And also, don't forget that there is going to probably be a second part into this, by the way, so don't worry about it. There'll probably be another one as well. Might be another one. So, this time it's going to probably be having like the plants and the dolphins pretty much on the thumbnail. Exactly whenever that's going to probably be the insistence. But, we're just gonna have to kind of see what happens, We're just gonna have to kind of see what happens. But, as I said before, we're definitely doing a Miami Dolphins live stream, which, by the way, just want to let you guys know, by the way, that technically, I know that there isn't a jersey or anyway. I know that there actually isn't a jersey, by the way. So, to be honest with you, by the way, there actually isn't a jersey anyway. Just want to let you guys know, by the way. But if there was a jersey, it probably would have made more sense anyway, or made some bit of sense. But, it's just not going to kind of be like that right now. So if you guys enjoy this interesting live stream, then feel free to hop on in and feel free to enjoy this live stream as you can. And feel free to enjoy this anyway. So we're just doing something a little different, by the way. That most likely my separate channels have never done anyway, is just do something a bit more, how do I say this? A bit more casually, a bit different. Which, it's kind of more of a different thing, which of course I know this is a different live stream anyway. Which we all know for one, by the way, that things might get less confusing as we continue along with the live stream exactly. And, like I said, we're going to try to keep up with more live stream stuff in the 6th channel, by the way, and keep it up pretty much exactly. So, if I were you guys, by the way, enjoy the live stream. If you guys definitely do enjoy this, then hope you guys definitely enjoy the live stream. So, feel free to hop on in, as I said beforehand. Feel free to jump right on in and feel free to hop on the live stream anytime. And just remember this, by the way. This, by the way, is the Plants' favorite team, the Miami Dolphins, which I know everybody's going to say that, oh, Dolphins suck, which, yes, by the way, as myself, as a Seahawk and a Texan fan, as myself, the Lord of the Zombies, by the way, yes, we pretty much for one would say the Plants' team sucks. Just aka the Miami Dolphins. But, not in a very mean spirited way, anyways, but sometimes most of that could still happen. But I'm just saying again that this is just a bit of a different thing to kind of do a little bit, just only a different thing, just a different thing, a little bit, just a different thing. That's all I'm saying. You know, it doesn't have to be always the same as per usual. It might stay the same as per usual, but this is just kind of more of a different thing that we're just gonna kind of do right now. Is decide to have a Miami Dolphins live stream anyway. That's kind of what we're going with, and that's what we're kind of doing right now. So if I were you guys already, feel free to hop on the live stream anytime. So that way that we'll kind of get right on with this anyway. And the main other question is that for main questions, by the way, is there going to be a jersey of that? The main question is that no, I probably have not exactly would reconsidered getting the jersey exactly for that as of now. Which of course, here's an interesting topic, by the way. Is I think the only interesting topic I want to mention, by the way, that the Miami Dolphins, I would say, they're pretty much currently on my 4th rank, which means on top 4, probably on my top 4, by the way, on my main channel. So if I were you guys already, don't worry about it. It's only on my main channel, by the way, that pretty much explains it. So if you guys do or don't get it, by the way, the Miami Dolphins are definitely like considering to be like my top 4 favorite anyway, which I know, like I said, they're only on the 4th rank anyway, because I kind of prefer that. So that's all I'm going to say. And at least I didn't move to 5 or anywhere else. At least I didn't basically moved it down to a top 5 anyway, like, next to the Browns pretty much. So at least I didn't like commissioned that anyway. At least I commissioned it to be on top 4 anyway and ranked it the 4th spot anyway for the Dolphins. So that's probably why I ranked it. you know, just for main reasons on my main channel, by the way. If you guys have not checked it, by the way, I would consider you guys to check that out, by the way. That would be appreciated. So, that would be pretty appreciated, by the way. And also, another question is, um, to most of you guys wanted to know is that how many interesting Dorkerly videos are we going to watch? Well, not really sure, but it depends what we're going to kind of do here. It kind of depends what we're going to be doing. So it does kind of depend when that's going to be the next considering talk, by the way. Is I'm not that too sure, by the way, but like I said, it's gonna take some time and neutral time anyway, just to kind of like see what happens anyway, and see in more interesting Dorkerly videos. Which, to be honest, by the way, I'll be honest with you guys anyway, that not really sure where this goes on anyway, but I guess we're just gonna have to kind of find out and see the moment and see what happens already. Which, even though I've not actually reacted to most Dorkerly stuff for a long time, but hey. At least I think some stuff are good and some stuff are not as good. But hey, I mean, some stuff are going to be good and some stuff are not going to be that good. So we just got to kind of see, by the way. And also, just as in for another FYI, by the way, that there probably will be a second part in this live stream, by the way. There pretty much will be a second part, by the way. Just want you guys to know, by the way, another clarification, by the way, that yes, it's definitely going to be exactly the second part of another live stream where there's going to be another mention that the plants, by the way. Well, like I said, I'm going to definitely add a thumbnail for that, which of course I'm going to add a thumbnail for the Dolphins and of course plants, which I'm going to add two differences, by the way, with like the thumbnail, by the way, and see what you guys think of the thumbnail. So not really sure, by the way, but I guess, like I said, we can definitely just chat and just chill for a little while, and then, we might probably end the live stream or there exactly, but if you guys are wanting to look forward to enjoy this live stream, then feel free to watch this live stream anytime that you guys feel free to want to watch it. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be anywhere else at any other day. So if I were you guys, by the way, and by choice and by reason, if you guys would consider definitely enjoying the live stream, that would be pretty nice. That would be pretty nice. That would be amazing. And that would be pretty much respectful. So if you guys do that, that would be amazing. And that would be, pretty based. And that would be absolute cinema, by the way. That would be absolute cinema. So yes, it would actually be absolute cinema. So if you guys, like I said beforehand, do enjoy this live stream, feel free to join right in. And remember, this is only something different that I just wanted to do on this sixth channel because, well, technically on more live streams, it's going to kind of be a while for more live streams to continue. So, we're going to keep on more with the live stream stuff a little bit going for a while and just keep all of that energy going with more live streams going, like keep the energy going. So, you know, we're just going to keep the energy going. We're just going to keep basically whatever's going to go on anyway. So, the other question is, by the way, is that yes, I think, like I said, the plants, by the way, as I said, by the way, that the plants do like the Miami Dolphins, but since Papyrus and Black Panther don't know about NFL anyway, they don't probably kind of know, by the way, which of course I know, obviously, Black Panther would say, the ones that he would consider saying that I think he would probably would go for is the Carolina Panthers, which, yo, I mean, yes. The Black Panther in our channel, by the way, would kind of consider saying, well, he would basically would go for North Carolina anytime. He would probably would consider North Carolina probably, since I'd say, he's still part of the good team, by the way. Just remember that. He's still on the good side with the channel, by the way. Yes, Black Panther, by the way, is with pretty much likely the plants. And yes, he does consider him liking the Panthers because it's obviously, again, too obvious that he's a Black Panther as well. He's a Panther as well. So it probably does make sense that yes, he is a Panther, and it makes sense too that the one I find so interesting about is either A, that I find it that pretty interesting that Black Panther would say he probably would consider liking the Panthers, which I have not really even gave his opinion about that exactly. I not even recently talked about his opinion about that one, but I guess, well, it's probably been some interesting time since I never recently would say about however was something very interesting, which for once I never heard Black Panther would choose, North Carolina Panthers pretty much, so not really sure. So again, who knows, by the way? Not really sure, but we're just gonna have to kind of find out and see, by the way, and just see what happens anyway. Not really sure, but I guess Black Panther does consider himself one to choose North Carolina, by the way. And guess what also happened? Man, North Carolina just beat Cardinals in a very interesting Hall of Fame match, which was pretty cool, by the way, in my opinion. That was pretty like the coolest move I ever kind of seen from pretty much out of that exactly. So I'd say, damn, that's just really interesting, by the way. Yo, we got Jacob in the chat. We got Jacob in the chat, yo. Welcome to the live stream, Jacob. Welcome to the live stream, Jacob G8506. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And yes, I to be am the Lord of the zombies, by the way. Ha 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 ha. That's right, I'm the Lord of the Zombies speaking. And yet, this is definitely another live stream right here. So, Jacob said, hi. Yo, what's up? And I'm going to say, hi, Jacob. How you doing? And how's it going? And thanks for coming into the live stream, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the live stream. And say, by the way, if you do or don't know, by the way, Jacob, that the plants like the Miami Dolphins that we were just talking about, the Dolphins pretty much, that's like, pretty much like we Miami Dolphins for some reason that we were just talking about, but we were just kind of like discussing that earlier, that we were just kind of discussing it right now, pretty much. So, we were just talking about that exactly, which for some reason that I think, like I said, that I think the plants do like the Miami Dolphins for some reason. I guess I don't know why. I guess they kind of like Miami or something. Since I think I kind of do say that plants and water do kind of make a good, interesting mix, because I know the plants would say, they would choose something from the water team. So it's obviously something pretty clever, but not even really have heard of what the plants even think of. But I guess they kind of would say something about water, I guess. They kind of would say something about water, which I think that's why the plants consider choosing a team that's like completely made of water. Then, so yeah, I think that's why the plants do consider choosing the Miami Dolphins, obviously, because it's like a water team. So it's obviously a water team. So, it's definitely a water team. And Jacob said, what? Well, I know. That's what I've been saying. I know. Exactly. Which, for once, by the way, that yes, for some reason, that Dr. Sunvarstein and P. Shooter did say that they actually would choose the Miami Dolphins, which I'm not too sure what NFL team the Plants would ever kind of suggest, by the way, but I guess they kind of did suggest that they kind of would choose the Miami Dolphins for some reason, but that's all I wanted to kind of let you know about. So, I'm referring to like my six channels plants, by the way, that likes the Miami Dolphins. That's probably what I would say. And if I were to be myself, by the way, I'd say that's just a little interesting, which for once, I think I would never say anything in before my time. I'd never seen them actually like Miami for once. I'd say it's like, wow, Miami, huh? Miami. That's pretty interesting. Somewhere at that point of Florida, that's just interesting. That's like a pretty interesting bold move I would ever say, and I would never to expect saying. Is just like, wow, very unexpected. That's just very unexpected. But as I said beforehand, I think that's why the plants like the Miami Dolphins that much. So I think that's probably why. And oh yeah, before I say anything else, I think the plants didn't mention anything about a football player that they have not actually mentioned, by the way, for what their favorite team would be. Since I know that's a little bit of a hard guess to kind of make and kind of get out of exactly. Not really sure, but that's going to be a little bit of an interesting guess, since I'm not too sure what the plants' favorite players will probably would be, but I guess it probably would be a very interesting difference by saying is like, oh, the ranks, by saying is more top numbers again, which, it's going to be like the same thing as per usual again, but actually in the top 5 and top 10 again, so it's going to probably be like that this time. I'm not really sure what their options would be, but this time with football players that I'm talking about. I already did talk about their team, by the way, what the Plants' top 10 favorite teams were exactly. It's on our channel, by the way. If you have checked it out, by the way, Jacob, go ahead and check it on the channel, by the way, because I mean, for one, I definitely did make some guesses that yes, the Plants did selected the teams randomly, for what their numbers were chosen. So it's probably why I'd say they ranked most of the numbers to good, medium, worst. That's why they probably moved it exactly, which is pretty much exactly what I was going to probably tell you. So, the Plants once again do like the Miami Dolphins, and that's all I would have to probably would say. But anyways, feel free to respond any question, Jacob, and I'll be able to respond most of your questions, by the way. So, that would be pretty interesting. All right. So Jacob says Cat in the Hat versus Pennywise. Um, yeah, that probably would be another interesting move by saying is like, Cat in the Hat versus Pennywise. Okay, well, I guess I'd say that's pretty interesting. And oh yes, I did heard about the Cat in the Hat before. I definitely heard about Cat in the Hat before. I was like, oh, okay, okay. So you were telling me about like saying is like Cat in the Hat, versus Pennywise. Well, that's pretty something, as I would expect to say, wow, that's interesting. And oh yeah, speaking about Pennywise, by the way, I actually have to say, by the way, that I did remember something. I was like, wait, I actually kind of remembered something a little while back, a little bit, for whatever I was going to kind of talk about, by the way. For once, by the way, I actually was going to mention for one thing exactly, and I think I did hear about Cat in the Hat before. I basically watched it on a cartoon pretty much, and yeah, I think Cat in the Hat was pretty good. I think it was very, very natural because I think Cat in the Hat was pretty good. It was a TV show, pretty good. For some reason, though, I don't know. But Cat in the Hat was a pretty interesting show, so I'd say that was a pretty interesting show. So I'd say Cat in the Hat was pretty interesting, Pretty interesting show, a little bit. And also, no, I have not seen it in the movie theaters, and also, it probably would be my first time if I did saw it in a movie theater once, but, if I did ever see Cat in the Hat in the movie theater, I'd say, dang, that's pretty interesting again. That I might actually see, like, a Cat in the Hat in a movie theater for the first time, which I never once seen it, but I might give it a little interesting peek to kind of look at that. But pretty cool. And oh yeah, with your other question that you mentioned about Pennywise earlier, yes, I actually did get your message about Pennywise. I did get your message, by the way. And let me ask you that question, by the way, is that I think I would, for once, by the way, say is that, I think I did kind of think about earlier or something about that the plants or zombies never faced a killer before. I think they never faced a horror killer before. But I think the only main question I would say, understandably, by the way, I never would expect is that, well, somehow in some time I'd say that I think the plants and zombies have never kind of faced a horror killer that is like Pennywise exactly. But you're definitely correct, by the way, when you said Pennywise, by the way. Yes, Pennywise is going to kind of confirm, by the way, taking over pretty much the sixth channel, by the way. That's like the P vs Z channel, by the way, which means Pennywise, by the way, might actually be going after the plants and zombies, by the way. Which, no, for once, by the way, Pennywise isn't active, by the way. He is not active, by the way, which also is good news, by the way. So he's not fully active right now, but he's just like vegging out in the sewer, by the way, whenever he's kind of doing that at this point. I mean, some of nowadays he's just in the sewer, just kind of wondering what the heck he's doing nowadays in the sewer, but I don't know. But I guess we're just gonna have to kind of find out and see what Pennywise's next plan he's thinking about, but I guess we're just gonna have to kind of wait and see what Pennywise might do. But good question, Jacob. I like your question. Like, seriously, I do like your question when you mentioned about Cat in the Hat and Pennywise. That was like a very interesting, good concept. I like the concept. Good idea. And Jacob said, who? Oh no. Yeah, you don't have to worry, by the way. Like I said again, don't have to worry that you did mention about Pennywise, which is also which is very correct, by the way. So yeah, you're definitely correct that Pennywise, by the way, will somehow be in the sixth channel, but of course that he won't appear, by the way. It means that he actually won't appear, by the way, if he ever did interrupt a season, by the way, it means that he might invade the characters and might go after them pretty much, which no, he's not active, by the way. He's just like not wanting to go out there just yet before he's active or any reason, which, he might say his famous quotes exactly and he might come out of the sewer. It might actually be more creepier than usual, so he probably might actually take some time as per usual to kind of do whatever he wants for his time. But I think Pennywise, like I said, is definitely not going to come around until he might get there. So we're going to have to see. Like, we're going to have to probably witness in the 2028 or 2029 ish. We'll see. We'll see what Pennywise is going to do. We're going to have to see what he's going to probably be doing, unfortunately. But, until my extension, as I said, I will mention when Pennywise might come around. He might come around 2 years or 3 years, by the way. He might come around 2 years or 3 years of showing up, by the way. By invading the timeline exactly whenever he might invade it. But, of course, that he won't. So, it's a good, like I said, he won't invade the timeline. Because if he ever did, by the way, yeah, the plants and zombies are going to be in some serious, serious trouble. That they're going to, like, be involved going after Pennywise, by the way. Yes, that would be a big, big trouble. I mean, if the plants and zombies do ever see a killer that's like a clown, that's Pennywise, yep, that would not be pretty good. That actually would not be that good. So, yeah, it probably wouldn't be that good. So, if you guys do or don't know, by the way, I did confirm the confirmation, by the way, that I will say that there probably might be a movie where I'd say this might be about the plants versus zombies and taking on Pennywise pretty much. So I'd say that's a very interesting question. And no, I have not actually confirmed it just yet. It's going to probably be somewhere in 2028 or 2029 or something. I think it's going to probably be like 2028, 2029 ish. So I guess we're going to have to kind of see what that's going to kind of be like. But for now, we're just going to have to kind of see if the timeline god is going to probably stop Pennywise exactly. But until that time does come around, we're going to have to just kind of see what happens. So we're just going to have to see. And looks like Ramboy 1234 says sunflower would destroy Pennywise, I swear on my mother. Nice. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting, by the way. Nice. That actually would be pretty cool, by the way. That Dr. Sunflower Stein actually would beat Pennywise, by the way, in the fight, which that would pretty much be very interesting, by the way. As long as that Dr. Sunflower Stein does have her powers, by the way, of using her solar beam powers, like, her previous powers from season 1. Seriously, that would be gold. That actually would be gold of the gold. That would be like the gold mine, man. That would be like a gold mine. But seriously, that would be pretty cool. For once, I'd say, yeah, she probably would use the same powers to beat Pennywise with that. So I'd say, dang, crazy. Yeah, she probably would hopefully beat him, but we're going to have to just kind of see. So, yeah, I guess we're going to have to kind of find out and see what happens, though. In 2028 or 2029, or maybe earlier, we're going to have to kind of see what happens until that time does arrive. But, until Pennywise does get his energy a little bit going a little bit and get back in the fight or somehow, then that's when he might try to escape. And then, the timeline guy's going to always be involved a little bit, taking care of, like, the horror killers to send them away exactly, which... yeah, it's going to be a little interesting, but we're going to have to see, though. We're going to have to just see. And looks like Ramboy said, hello, everyone. Yo, what's up, dude? What's up? And Jacob said, Bloodbear versus Cat in the Hat versus Pennywise 2v1. Who would win? I would say I'm not too sure about that, but I guess I'm not that really sure about that. But, if I were to say that, by the way, I think that Pennywise would not kind of consider working with Bloodbear, so no, I don't think he's going to probably work with him anyway, so that probably would be a no, I guess, but I don't know why. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just answer the next question. So the next question from Ramboy 1234 said, Sunflower has been my favorite character for the longest. She is the best plant in PvP. Dang, congratulations. Nice. Besides, she's a good support character too in PvZ. I know, right? Exactly. Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, for once, by the way, she could definitely help the plants out because we all know that, you know, in our sixth channel of my sixth channel, Dr. Sunrise Stein is basically the leader of the plants anyway, and she does lead the plants to victory and try to beat Zomboss as per usual. So I'd say, yeah, she probably exactly would take her role exactly to be the main leader of the plants exactly, and probably Pea Shooter, by the way, because I mean both of them do like having their roles being leader and assistants pretty much to help the plants to win more victories against the zombies, which, to be honest though, and frankly, we're just going to have to kind of see what happens though. But, in some good reasons, it's pretty cool to kind of look back on some of the things a little bit, just to kind of like, do a little bit of a recap or something to know how interesting most of that will continue. But for like I said, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. And looks like Ramboy1234 said, so if she is aiding a plant and that plant helps her out, she could demolish Pennywise. Yes. As long as they use a plant food, by the way. As long as they use the plant foods, by the way, to beat Pennywise, by the way, the dancing clown. Yes. They actually would beat Pennywise in a fight by using, like, plant food to kind of weak Pennywise's defeat of his weaknesses, pretty much. And as long as they do kind of weaken, by the way, with different other abilities, there's gonna be like lots of hidden stuff around Pennywise nowadays for what Pennywise may not like about exactly. Which, yeah, for once, by the way, we're gonna have to kind of see. As long as the plants do, like I said, do beat Pennywise with plant food, by the way, it probably might slow him down exactly. It might weak him down pretty much. So it's going to be a very good question. It's going to be a very, once again, very interesting question. Now, with the zombies, on the other hand, by the way, I'm not too sure how the zombies could beat the. I'm not sure how the zombies could beat Pennywise in a fight, but I'd say, in my interesting opinion about with the zombies, by the way, I think I would say the zombies, well, for my answer, by the way, since, well, technically I'm the Lord of the Zombies, by the way, and do actually lead the zombies, by the way, and so is Zomboss, because I mean, me and Zomboss and Head Zombie, like, we're three main leader captains, pretty much, to, like, assist the zombies to go out there and attack, pretty much, which, obviously, Head Zombie's always pretty much the, commander, pretty much, to say whenever he just tells them to go out there exactly, like, he's the same purple zombie that was from season 1 and 2, by the way. He's like the same zombie that's from 1 and 2, by the way. So that's when you might probably know about Head Zombie a lot more a little bit, is that, yep, for once, by the way, he does tell the zombies to go out there and fight exactly, which he's obviously the one who's pretty much in charge with the zombies. And of course, Zomboss, by the way, yep, me and Zomboss, by the way, are definitely like main captains, pretty much to lead the role in two different roles. But for me, well, I just kind of like do a little bit of visioning myself a little bit, like visiting like, sorry, I was gonna say it was like kind of like seeing a little bit of, other things exactly. So that's probably what I would say anyway. But it probably would be very interesting to kind of like vision a little bit to see what the zombies are doing nowadays. But I guess we're just gonna have to kind of find out and witness and definitely see what goes on anyway to see what happens anyway. So, it probably would be pretty cool, by the way. It actually would be very cool, by the way, to see the zombies, by the way, beating Pennywise in a fight. But I mean, if they do beat Pennywise, by the way, that would be pretty cool for once. And no, it doesn't mean that Pennywise will become a zombie, by the way. The zombies are only going to throw their fists out, by the way, just to punch Pennywise exactly and use their punching powers or anyways, or whatever. I mean, they might have to use some punching and kicking a lot, which, yeah, I don't know. I know they don't have like the same thing as the plan do, but it's just kind of like, well, it's just kind of what we're kind of left with is exactly when the zombies are gonna like, do whatever they want exactly to beat Pennywise in a fight. But that would be a very interesting way to do so. But we'll see. We just have to make a lot of question marks a little bit and predictions a little bit to see what the characters can do. That is the plants and zombies to beat Pennywise in a fight. If Pennywise does invade the timeline exactly, it means that the official thing might happen exactly. That there might even be a movie exactly on this channel, by the way. That it might be called The Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the movie. Which, I mean, that would be the next coolest thing, by the way. If you guys like that idea, by the way, of saying is like, if you guys do like the idea called the Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the movie. That would be like the next interesting, scary movie, and the most interesting movie I would ever pretty much ever do exactly, and would ever confirm the movie exactly. Because I mean, this is just always something cooler, by the way, just to see what the Plants and Zombies' reactions would be if they ever did ever met a clown, by the way, or faced a clown before that's like a killer clown, then that would be like the next interesting thing to kind of ever see, by the way. But in honest ways, I'd say that would be pretty sick. That actually would be pretty cool. So, that would be pretty cool. And also, give me a second. All right. So, anyways, what I was gonna say back there, by the way, don't worry about the noise, by the way. I think it's somewhere from next door, by the way. I think it's like the back end of the door a little bit from the gate, so don't worry. I think it's somebody on a mower, exactly. I think it's on a leaf blower thing, or just on it's just a person that's probably like mowing the grass or just like using a leaf blower or something, but don't worry about that. So, the noise is going to probably go down a little bit if the noise is kind of a bit down, but we're just going to continue with the live stream a little bit. So, at least I'm giving you guys a bit of a good thing, a little bit of a good news, by the way, is that the good news is that there is a good confirmation, by the way, that I might be able to release like the 2028 and 2029 thing about like, the characters with the plants and zombies taking on a killer clown would be the next interesting thing we might ever witness in history, by the way, in the P vs. Z timeline, which is a little different and a bit odd, but it's going to be a little bit more of a different scenario whenever that the plants or zombies might have to work together, which we all know that pretty much us zombies don't like to team up with the plants, by the way, but yeah, pretty much. And I'd say that's a very interesting question is that, yeah, for once, it's going to kind of be a little bit of a hard debate between Dr. Sunflowerstein and Zomos, by the way, to like work together to take on that clown, by the way. But for once, by the way, we're going to have to kind of see in likely 2 years or 3 years or something. Like, that's going to be like the next thing going to be going right on ahead forward. It's just that I don't know. It's going to be the next interesting thing that might happen in the history of our channel, by the way, of our sixth channel, by the way. Which, if you guys are looking forward for that movie to be happening, yeah, we're going to have to kind of see what happens, by the way. We're just going to, like, kind of see what they're going to do and kind of see what happens, what they're actually going to figure out and when exactly. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time of its course. And yes, the timeline god is going to kind of be a little bit involved again, which I know that he somehow definitely did have to deal with like other things anyway, but the timeline god was having a little bit of a vacation. I think the only thing that he actually did went to vacation, by the way, that the last thing I did remembered, a little bit sneak peek, by the way, of a bit of like a hidden something, a little bit about the timeline god. For one, by the way, I think he kind of went somewhere a little bit. I think for the only vacation that the timeline god ever did kind of did, by the way, was I think the only vacation he actually went to was Oklahoma. Yeah, I think the only place that he kind of went to on a vacation was Oklahoma for some reason. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. For some timeline god that I actually voiced the timeline god, for him actually going on a vacation, by the way, is going to Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma City. For some reason, I'd say that's kind of ironic, but pretty funny. Yeah, pretty ironic, but pretty funny. So that probably would be my question. I would say, yeah, he probably definitely went to Oklahoma City after when he actually did kind of left a little bit, and then he might come back for some reason. Whenever that he does get like some alert going on, by the way, in the timeline thing, it's gonna kind of be involved with him actually wanting to go out there and stop Pennywise as well. Like I mean, as long as like I said that the plants or zombies do try to work together and beat the killer that's like a killer clown that's Pennywise the dancing clown, then we're gonna have to kind of see what happens anyway. So if you guys are looking forward for that 2028 and 2029 release, by the way, of by me exactly on that release, we're gonna have to kind of see what happens. So if you guys are looking forward to that movie, that's gonna be like in three or that's gonna be like in 2 or 3 years, by the way, and the run exactly, we're gonna have to kind of see what happens. But we'll see what goes on anyways. in 2028 or 2029. But in some good reason, it's going to be pretty based and it's going to be pretty good. And if you guys like the movie of it, by the way, the title name's going to actually be called, by the way, if you guys actually do or don't know what the movie's name is going to be called, by the way, by me, for what I'm going to actually call it, by the way, I'm actually going to be naming the title and be calling the movie that the movie I'm going to be saying is this line, by the way. So here's what the name's going to be. So the name I definitely did said, by the way, the name was actually going to be called is The Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the Dancing Clown, the movie. That's what the movie's going to be called. Which, if you guys like the movie name, by the way, the name of the title, by the way, then I hope that you guys like the movie name title. But if not, by the way, I'm just going to refer by saying is like, the Plants vs. Zombies versus Pennywise, the movie. Like, if you guys like those options, the options, like I said, would be pretty interesting, it would be that interesting. So, as I can say already, that there might be a community post if I ever did mention about like a very interesting concept by saying is like the fact we're going to kind of see, the plants and zombies taking on a killer clown for the first time. That's like named It exactly from like the sewer exactly. That's named Pennywise. But like I said, he does come from the sewers a lot, which I think we all know that it might be the perfect role a little bit by seeing Pennywise actually being in the timeline of the Plants vs. Zombies universe, which is obviously going to be a little interesting. So I guess we're going to have to kind of see what happens, by the way. And yes, Pennywise obviously is going to use his hallucination powers exactly to hallucinate every character sometimes. But, it's going to be the next interesting movement, as I will ever say, in history in our channel for our only time, I'd say. This would be the most next interesting thing we will ever see in our sixth channel, that we might get like a horror movie at some point and say is like, dang, that is cool. That is based. That would be based as AF, by the way. That would be based. So if you guys are excited for like the 2028 and the 2029 project that I might be wanting to consume to actually make, by the way, we're going to have to kind of see what happens, by the way, for something very incredible and very interesting news. So if you guys are actually excited for that, that would be exciting and that would be amazing. And also, there will be a poll, by the way, exactly in the community post. If you guys do want to go ahead and just check out the post, by the way, which I will be making the post, by the way, whenever I'm actually ready to make the post, by the way, then, it's going to be on a poll, by the way, where it's going to be like two options, by the way. It's only going to be in two options, by the way, by saying it's like, do you guys want the Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the movie, to be in 2028 or 2029? So that's when exactly, the movie is going to probably be in the extension, and that's when it's going to probably be in the works. So if you guys are actually excited to kind of see the basic news exactly by seeing the best amount of news, by the way, to see what's going to go on, by the way, it's going to be like the very interesting news we're ever going to kind of expect and see, by the way, is actually seeing the 2028 and 2029. So that's probably what's going to happen. And I know it's going to come right around from the future or something like that, which I know it's almost like 2030-ish, because I know that they're near 2030. But I'm just saying, whatever's going to happen, I don't really know whatever's going to be in the next part of the timeline exactly about that one. But we'll see. Like, we'll see how many interesting good years we're going to probably be having, since that's going to be pretty cool. So, there's going to be only two polls, by the way, only from one poll to one other poll. So if you guys do want to go ahead and jump onto the polls, by the way, once I do actually confirm the poll, by the way, and make the statements that I will make exactly and confirm the date exactly. And obviously, I'm definitely am going to probably mention that, yes, it's going to be mentioned that there will be, and I mean there will be a project coming soon, that there will be a horror movie. Yep, a horror movie. A very horror movie. That's very scary. But as I said, by the way, if you guys do want to see a 2028 or 2029 pick, by the way, on the movie selection, that would be still the same thing, that is called The Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the Dancing Clown movie. So, if you guys want to actually be excited to see that in the 2028 and 2029, then feel free, like I said, go on the poll and definitely vote on the poll once I actually confirm the poll, by the way. And that's when everything gets to be in settlement, by the way. And remember, by the way, if I do confirm the poll being over exactly, it means it has been confirmed. And it will be confirmed for the very first time for our channel, by the way, our sixth channel, that's Golden Devin-Foxy's P vs. Z channel, that we're ever going to get the first time, and I mean the very first time ever, we might have a horror movie on our basic, likely on our separate channel for a long time. Which, seriously, it's actually that interesting, by the way, to see, the plants and zombies taking on a clown that's like a dancing, by the way. For once exactly, that's actually pretty interesting, by the way. That's actually the next interesting thing we can ever expect in a 2028 or 2029 pick. So I'd say that's cool. That's pretty dang based. And that's actually very good. So it's a pretty good option. It's a pretty good choice. So I'd say, yeah, that's a very interesting choice. And speaking about that choice, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and take a look in the chat. So Jacob G8506 says, with the emojis, by the way, with jellyfish, lobster, crab, puffish, and dolphin, a whale. Yeah, I mean whale, dolphin, and fish. I know, right? That's why the planes like the Miami Dolphins. That's why I said, by the way. For some reason, I've not confirmed about, like, football players exactly. I've not confirmed anything about football players just yet, but I would say, that's going to take a while. That's going to take a basic amount of a long time, a little bit. It's going to take some tick, 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 tick. It's going to take some time, by the way. It's going to actually take some amount of time, a little bit, just to kind of like, oh, kind of vision a little bit and kind of realize a little bit and say, about the plans' confirmations about the football players, about what their favorites would be, considering to be in this kind of year, 2026, or last year it was exactly, then we're gonna have to kind of see what happens. Because I mean, till further notice, we're gonna have to kind of see what the plans' selections would be, and also if it ever were to be a quarterback. By the way, if it ever was to be a quarterback or any precisions that the plants or zombies do like exactly, that would be a pretty interesting debate. That actually would be, for once, by the way, a very interesting tactic. That would be a very interesting tactic for the first time. That actually would be the most interesting tactic in history of our channel, by the way. That would be the most interesting thing that the plants actually would ever do exactly, is consider and confirm most football players for what the plants actually do like. If it's like team captains or non-team captains, it's like finding another interesting element. It's like finding an element, by the way, for like knowing what team you actually like, for like whatever that you might believe in exactly, or for whatever position that actually the best football player even gets exactly. That actually would be pretty cool for the plants or zombies to kind of actually would agree on that situation, though. But we're gonna have to find out next time, by the way. Until I do confirm the top 5 or top 10, by the way, of their selections. But it's gonna be like the same thing with best versus worst. Exactly, it's gonna be like the same thing from each thumbnail is gonna be the same but different exactly. So that's all I can make my confirmations about. As a Seahawk and a Texan fan, as the Lord of Zombies, pretty much, yes, that actually would be a thing, by the way. If I would confirm the players exactly, if I confirm it, by the way, we'll see what happens, until further notice. But for now, let's get back to the Pennywise debate, by the way, the question exactly. So, in that question, however, if, for once, if Zomboss ever did took on Pennywise, by the way, seriously, that would be like the craziest match I would ever get to see. Like a loyal scientist that is like the leader of the zombies, exactly. Dr. Zomboss would take on Pennywise. Like, if anybody actually does actually give me a good, interesting opinion pick, by the way, that would be pretty cool, by the way, to see like a villain taking on a horror killer for like the first time, by the way. That would be pretty sick. That actually would be pretty interesting, by the way. That actually would be pretty based. And also, the reason why I say it's based, by the way, is because I think the reason to why I say that is because I think Zamos might actually get a good role if he ever does take on Pennywise and beat him down, by the way. that would be cool. And that would be pretty sick. And that would be pretty based. And I'd say, wow, that's really cool. You know, that would be pretty sick. And that would be actually pretty insane. But, if Pennywise ever did get Dr. Zomboss, by the way, oh yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a hard answer to kind of describe, but we'll have to see in 2028 or 2029. But remember, by the way, we're only making a little bit amount of guesses onto each question for what the plants or zombies can do to beat Pennywise's weaknesses, by the way. Which we all do kind of know that Pennywise, for some reason, he kind of hates about like when people don't like fear him anymore. It means that either A, the plants or zombies might actually discover a real weakness to Pennywise, which means Pennywise might not be the closest one to weak them exactly and beat them exactly and use like a kind of like something to fear exactly to make them scream in fear, which means it's a different element by saying is like, oh, imagine if like for one person has a fear versus like a person that doesn't have fear at all. It's just that in some reason it's just scientific a little bit in some conclusions. So I'd say, yeah, very, very interesting. Which, yes, for once exactly, it probably is a fact. By saying it's like two different elements, by saying it's like fear versus no fear at all. It's just kind of like that kind of game, but it's a little bit advanced. It's kind of like an advanced thing. It's kind of definitely like something that's like definitely advanced for once, but something very legit, by the way. So, it's very kind of likely advanced. The question I'll say right now, by the way, to say your guys' question, by the way, is what would basically Pennywise's ultimate weaknesses would be. I'm not sure, but the only thing I did we looked on some YouTubers, by the way, of knowing what Pennywise's actual weaknesses probably would be, is I did heard for one exactly heard about a weakness a while back on like two separate movies and a series, by the way, where I definitely figured out a little bit by saying is like, oh, kind of like discovering about Pennywise a little bit and discovering about the weaknesses, by the way. I think for one, it was that yes, Pennywise actually does somehow, like I said, I think for him, by the way, he actually has a weakness wherein people don't fear him exactly. Like, if people do or don't fear Pennywise exactly, it means that they are less scared to take on Pennywise and actually could definitely win in one condition, by the way, is that the plants do have to finish him off with another plant food attack exactly. And that's when Pennywise might go down, by the way, and actually might get weakened exactly. And if the zombies do ever try to attack and rush and charge at the dancing clown, by the way, it means that the zombies might have a good advantage where they might actually throw out a very, and I seriously mean, a very good, strong power, which means the zombies might actually weaken him as well, which no, obviously the zombies aren't going to eat. They're only going to just throw their fist and kick, by the way, because I know for one reason that yes, of course, Zomboss isn't going to get like affected by the zombies, by the way. It's just going to either be that the zombies are going to have to throw punches and kicks at basically at Pennywise for the first time, because I know that the zombies have never faced like an actual killer clown before for the first time, which no, they never faced that killer clown before, but if they did, that would be a very interesting coincidence. So all I can say, by the way, folks, that's going to take a while, and that's going to probably take some time of its course. So I'd say yes, it probably would, and it actually would make a lot of sense anyway. So that's all I can talk about, by the way. That's all I can mention about. And anyway, so the next weakness I'll be talking about, by the way, is the word turtle. So here's another reason why I actually did got an interesting relook on a YouTuber, by the way. I did used to watch a Mortal Kombat channel back my time in my first channel, by the way. I definitely had reacted to like the channel, by the way, where actually I find it so interesting a little bit where actually the next interesting thing did consider to be the next thing going on about was I did saw Scorpion actually taking on a clown, which yes, I know it was Halloween related, which we all know it's definitely Halloween related. So all I did kind of heard a little bit when actually I did consider hearing about was that, you know, Pennywise actually did hate the word turtles exactly. For some reason, Scorpion, for somehow, actually said was like turtle, 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 turtle. Like for some reason, Pennywise just hates that move exactly because for some reason I might like consider confirming the fear exactly for what Pennywise just might don't like exactly. Which I don't know why he hates turtles, but I don't get what is with turtles nowadays. But it's kind of like the funniest thing ever to kind of know that Pennywise, well, he's just gonna kind of hate turtles. He's just gonna hate turtles. Which I don't know if that's ever like a confirming thing, by the way. But if it's gonna be confirmed by me exactly, then yes, he's gonna be afraid of turtles because for once, I don't really get that. But for one reason though, not really sure. But we'll see what happens anyway. But for now, like I said, let's go ahead and take a look on the next chat. By the way, we have is Jacob G 8506 says Bloodbear back in 4 years. Yeah, pretty. That does kind of sound like that, man. That actually, for once, by the way, that does kind of sound like that, man. That actually does kind of sound like that. And I'm gonna say is like, yeah, that actually sounds what that sounds like. I'm gonna say is like, for once, I agree, and it kind of sounds like that. I guess that's all I can say. I pretty much just served to say. That's why I guess. But for now, all I can say, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that, at least there's going to be something there interesting and confirming a little bit for something for once exactly a bit interesting to kind of see. And also, here's what I also want to say, by the way, for the follow up, by the way, before we do consider getting back to the Dolphins a little bit, back like with the NFL thing, with like, you know, basically how the Plants' favorite team, the Miami Dolphins, might actually try to win a Super Bowl, but I think they may never try to win a Super Bowl until they start getting like better improvements a little bit, which they did try, and I'll be honest with you guys, by the way, they did try a little bit in some improvements, but if they ever did win to the Super Bowl, which that's going to be a little bit of a different alternative, then that's going to kind of be a little bit of a different thing, That's going to be a little bit of a different coincidence, but a little bit more different. So, let that being said, again, everyone, if you guys do enjoy this video, and remember this, by the way, that yes, the Plants like the Miami Dolphins, and that's final, and that's it. The Plants likes the Miami Dolphins and likes the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why they like both of those teams exactly. Which, yes, the Plants, by the way, do like Miami and Philadelphia. That's what the Plants kind of like, by the way, of their first favorite and second favorite exactly. So that's probably why the Plants do like two of those teams is like definitely from like, oh, for once, by the way, I think the Plants do like, yeah, I think they kind of do like the Dolphins and Eagles. Yes. So that's probably why they like those teams exactly. So don't ask me why. They just do exactly. They just actually do like that team anyway. They just actually do. So with that being said, and that truly to be said and spoken, and that being said anyway, if you guys do, again, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, 4 things you guys have to do, by the way, is, give this video a like and comment and subscribe to the bell to be notified so that way that you don't miss a single video that comes to our 6th channel, by the way, that is known to be Golden Devin-Foxy's P vs. Z channel. So, if you guys do subscribe to my 6th channel, by the way, if you guys are new to this channel, then please, again, subscribe to the channel. And, we'll continue a lot more stuff. And, hey, by the way, here's the good news, by the way. We're going to continue more reaction videos, by the way, just to kind of give you guys a bit more reaction videos before I can still say that, we're going to keep, like, our channel keep going a little bit. But even though, like I said, I'll be honest with you guys, by the way, that for once, I'll say this. And I'll be honest with you guys, by the way, that our 6th channel, by the way, sometimes, well, we don't kind of basically upload too much too often. We just kind of sometimes do it like a bit less often sometimes to kind of upload videos at this point sometimes. But it takes time anyway, which we're trying our best to go a little faster to kind of get videos done for our channel. For this 6th channel, by the way, of our P vs. Z channel. So we're going to try our best to get a little bit more reactions out. But, it'll be still me reacting to more videos, by the way. And, of course, I'll be mentioning about their plush revealing characters, by the way, exactly on their collection. Yes, that's still going to be confirmed, and that's still going to be on the conversation on the table, which I'll still approve and allow, by the way, for that to still continue. So if you guys are looking forward for seeing the Plants and Zombies again to kind of be revealed, by the way, on two separate versions, by the way, of the video, then that's when it's going to happen. So if you guys have any questions, by the way, let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys do want to root for the Plants' favorite team, by the way, is the Dolphins, by the way, then go on and subscribe to the channel, by the way, of this sixth channel, by the way. So yeah, if you guys subscribe to their channel, by the way, our channel exactly, then feel free to subscribe anytime. So feel free to absolutely subscribe. And better yet, exactly, go on and subscribe. If you're a new person, then feel free to subscribe. And the other thing I actually do want to mention, by the way, earlier, as I want to mention, by the way, is that if you guys do want to root for, like, the Plants' favorite team of Miami Dolphins, then feel free to subscribe, by the way. And also, here's another question. If I ever heard of Miami, well, yes, I actually did heard about Miami before, but I've never actually been over there, which I think, like I said, I think Miami does have like good spots a little bit. Like, I mean, pretty much avoid crocodiles out there, probably. Yeah, maybe like avoid crocodiles or something. I'm not too sure why crocodiles do come around nowadays for some reason. But I guess sometimes crocodiles do come around in some places exactly in certain areas. If crocodiles do come around from waters exactly, which they do probably. So that's probably why I would say is definitely kind of watch out for crocodiles. For those who like be out there in Florida and Miami, then just be aware of crocs and be aware of crocodiles, aka crocodiles. So be aware of crocodiles. And for those again who are like wanting to avoid crocodiles, then just avoid crocodiles all times. Because I mean, if you go near a crocodile is gonna probably get you and probably might bite you in the water. So I'd say, yeah, take like a few steps back, like 8 steps back from the crocodile, and it might move back down back in the water. So I'd say, yeah, for me, I never learned about anything about crocodiles, but for me, I did heard about some. But there are like different ways where a crocodile might actually go back down in the water, might try to bug anyone. So that's probably what my experience would probably be like. Is just go by 8 feet back, just only 8 feet to stay away from the crocodile. Only 8 feet, and that way the crocodiles won't bother you. Which, if they do try to bother you, then try to run as possible so that the crocodile doesn't try to like run and get somebody exactly. Because I mean, they do have a long bit of teeth which they can actually bite for real. So they can probably actually bite. So yeah, from my experience, I never actually ever encountered a crocodile before, but from my experience, I'd say that's a pretty scary experience. And I'll be honest, that's pretty of a scary thing to kind of go through with that exactly. Is just avoiding a crocodile, aka a croc exactly, or a killer croc exactly. But that's a very interesting point exactly. Coming from Florida exactly, but whatever. So that being said, anyways, if you guys actually do like the live stream exactly, then feel free to enjoy this live stream. And there is going to be a second part of this live stream too, by the way, where I'm actually going to add another thumbnail this time. But the thumbnail is actually going to be, the plants and of course the dolphins, by the way. That yes, it's going to be rolled into one, where it's actually going to be on the left, on the right. As long as like I get the thumbnail good, as long as I like get the thumbnail correct, then that's when it's going to be a good looking thumbnail. It's going to be like a very good looking thumbnail. So yes, there is going to be a second part into the live stream that I will confirm it to say that it will be true for one good reason as well. So that way I can like confirm to say that, it will be in confirmation that yes, the plants do like the dolphins. And of course the zombies, by the way, do like the bears, which for those who do or don't know about why the zombies like the bears for some reason, you guys might probably explain why. That I'll tell you guys why about like that in the second one, which I might explain that for later. But I'll explain that in a later conversation to why like zombies for a reason that they like the bears. That's aka Chicago or yet Indiana, which I think that's gonna probably hit in the 2030s or something like that. But until we're gonna have to see the improvement by saying is like another steam's gonna get built exactly in Indiana exactly, which it is a pretty surprising move a little bit from coming from Bears exactly that they say that, oh, they just don't like being somewhere in Chicago for some odd reason, which I think it had to be doing with like, oh, with their mayor or government thing. I say like yada 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 yada, which means I don't talk about that much often, but I'm just saying is like, yeah, for some reason I'm just gonna say that, yeah, due to the reason exactly with like the whole the whole craziness out there, probably, yeah, that's probably why the main reasons to the Dune situation is that, I think I'd say I did remember a rumor before. I did heard about a rumor by saying it's like, oh, the Chicago Bears are gonna probably like be moving and be renamed exactly to Indiana with a capital I. I'm like, yo, with a capital I, that's crazy. Imagine replacing the C with I in it. Like, I don't know why it would be funny, but I guess I'd say it is kind of a little funny for some reason. But, I don't really blame the Bears' decision or anything. I don't really kind of blame about their decision, though. But as long as they actually do play fair a little bit in some parts of the area, then yeah, I'd say that's totally natural. Because, for Chicago, by the way, they can keep the Cubs, by the way. But I mean, for the Bears, they probably would want to actually kind of go somewhere, I probably would say. But until 2030s or something like that, we're going to have to kind of see what the news is going to kind of be like. So if you kind of pay attention about the new stadium thing that's going to kind of get built exactly in the next place somewhere in Indiana exactly, that's probably what they're going to go, and that's where they're going to probably go to somewhere, something like that. So it's kind of a little interesting. It's kind of a little interesting to kind of think a little bit and see what actually the heck's even actually going on out there. And also, the only thing I would be saying is using common sense a little bit because I mean, for me, I'm kind of coming from where I'm making common sense a little bit all the time because I mean, I make a lot of common sense a lot of times. I actually would be honest with you guys, by the way, I've always had common sense. Like, ever since I was around, I'd say, yeah, I've always used common sense before. I've actually used it, like, a few similar times that where I might say, this is a bit of an interesting pickle. Something interesting if I were to make a joke, by the way, by saying, like, that's an interesting kind of pickle. Yeah, for something that would be funnier if I say a pickle, which that would have been pretty hilarious. Yeah, for once, it would be pretty funny if I'd said pickles, but it would be actually funny again if I said it like more times than one time than saying pickles. But yeah, that kind of would be funny. So LOL. Oh, yes. LOL. Just once again, LOL. So. Anywho, yeah, so if you guys like this live stream, by the way, then go hit the thumbs up, by the way, and hit the like button exactly. That's like up there exactly. So go hit the like button exactly. And if you guys do want to see another live stream, by the way, that's going to be like a second live stream, by the way. Yes, there is going to be a confirmation that there will be a second live stream coming somewhere where I'm going to make another thumbnail, by the way, where it's going to be the same Miami Dolphins and plants where they're actually going to be in World to One exactly, in a thumbnail exactly, in the live stream exactly. So as long as I make a thumbnail out of it, it means I'll make like a thumbnail and confirm the thumbnail that yes, the plants are like loyal to like the Dolphins because it makes sense anyway that we all probably realize in a second, by the way, that it's so clever and it's so interesting. I actually came with this idea that the Dolphins would actually make a good fit for the plants to actually like the Dolphins from Miami for once. I'd say it's like, geez, bro, that's creative. Like, I'm very creative nowadays for like this kind of year, 2026, all the way from the beginning till now exactly. I'm just that creative for some reason. I'm just like, dang, this dude is creative for amazing reasons, which even if some reasons aren't good and some reasons aren't that too good, but hey, at least I come to the middle and come to the conclusion to the middle of it. So, yeah, that's probably either A and Y. I'd say that's probably why it makes sense anyway. It makes very much likely valid sense anyway to make a lot more common sense. But, for those who actually like this idea, when the plants do like the Miami Dolphins, yes, I actually already did confirm that the plants like Dolphins of Miami. But also, the main question is about the football player names exactly. Have I actually did not confirmed yet? Well, like I said, once I do check on their class exactly and check their position roles of the class in football, we're gonna have to kind of see what happens. By the way, and we're gonna have to kind of see what the Plants' favorite picks would be, and also even if the Plants' picks are gonna be a little bit more different, then hey, I mean, we could probably expect less and expect more awesomeness to see what the Plants' choices will probably would be even if it is going to be a little different, then we're going to have to kind of expect to see something what's going to be cooking, by the way. Like, if I would be cooking like a video that's coming up, which, we'll see about that. I mean, we'll probably see. And Jacob said yes. And Jacob says, it's a video, by the way. It's a video. I'm talking about like a video. That's what I'm talking about, Jacob. And if you do or don't know, by the way, I was just talking about a video, by the way. I'm talking about like the ranks. I'm talking about like the Plants' favorite football players. That's what I'm kind of talking about exactly. I'm kind of referring to that idea. I'm kind of referring about that. So, if you do or don't know, way, I'm just trying to let you know for an advice that I'm just giving you a heads up, by the way. That's what the plants are going to kind of be doing and kind of like get the idea out there and see what they would like exactly. It's about like their top five favorites of like football exactly and top 10 favorite teams exactly. So that's probably why the plants would say that they would kind of actually like confirm the idea. But like, oh, about like their favorite positions, whatever like the football team players do exactly, of course, which, it's obviously, like I said, it's either quarterback or whatever random position that they would choose exactly, which it's going to probably be taking its course and time. Like, it probably won't happen just now. I'm just saying what might happen in the forward, by the way. We just got to expect something's cooking, something good is cooking. It's going to be like, it's going to be like making some meatballs. Like, imagine like a cooking idea. Imagine like most YouTubers sometimes say is like, it's just about like when people cook up something good on a video, it means that they're going to like cook something good and they're going to make something good out of it and make something interesting out of it. So that's probably why I kind of almost learned out of it. I was like, I never heard of that topic before. I never even heard of that. But for me, I actually did kind of learn it a little bit a while back. So I'd say like, that's pretty interesting. So I'd say, yeah, that's all interesting to me. And I'd say that's very interesting indeed. So anyway, so if you guys like the ideas, by the way, let me know down in the comments below. And, we're gonna probably try to end the live stream somehow by how many minutes we have in the live stream we have left exactly. Like, let me check the minutes we have left. So the minutes we do have left right now is 1 hour and 7 minutes and 35 seconds. So it's pretty much like we have been like doing a live stream for like 1 hour. So if you guys are looking forward for a second live stream, by the way, then yes, a second live stream is going to definitely happen. And if you guys definitely would want to like definitely enjoy the second live stream, that's when the second live stream is going to happen, by the way. And question, and I'll be asking myself the question, by the way, is that here's my question to myself, by the way, is this. So the question would be, is that am I going to somehow kind of like do a bit of thumbnails with likely with the plants and zombies about their favorite teams on live streams? The answer is that maybe for future references, maybe, for like future references, it's just going to be like a bit of like their favorite top numbers, by the way. Like, for instance, by the way, if the plants or zombies do kind of like decide to have that as a live stream thing, that actually would be pretty nice. That actually would be pretty creative, by the way, and pretty delightfully created, by the way. And also, for once exactly, I might mention this out loud for anyone, is that, for my instance, by the way, I would say that I don't think the jerseys are going to kind of count, by the way. It's only going to just be me appearing on the most of the live streams sometimes. It's not going to be like, oh, the jersey's going to kind of happen thing. It's going to be like the jersey thing that's going to happen. Yeah, probably not. It's not going to probably happen because, I mean, that probably would be a lot of time of work, a little bit for making thumbnails for all of that, for like every each thumbnail that would make sense. So I'd say, yeah, it probably would take a long, and I seriously mean a long time. So yeah, it would take a long time to just do all of that in one snap, in one go, by the way. So it's going to take a long time pretty much. So with that being said, by the way, I hope that you guys enjoy this live stream, and I appreciate two people who made it to the live stream. By the way, is Jacob BG 8506 and Ramboy 1234. By the way, I do want to say who came in first. By the way, was Jacob. By the way, He came in first with Jacob definitely did came in first, by the way, with 75 XP, by the way, and Ram Boy 1234 came in second place with 75 XP. So congratulations to two people that made it to the live stream. Congratulations. And I mean, definitely again, congratulations for being in the live stream. Congratulations. So, without that being said, anyways, if you guys are looking forward for another live stream, that's going to be like the second part of the live stream exactly, then feel free to definitely enjoy the video. And hey, by the way, while you guys are at it, by the way, feel free to watch like the reaction videos that were just like up there exactly. I finally got over with exactly. Like I said, there's gonna probably be more dorkily reaction video stuff or something like that until further notice. Like more of that's gonna probably continue eventually, and that's gonna keep continuing a little bit because I mean it's kind of been a while a little bit just to kind of mention that anyway. So it's gonna kind of be what's gonna kind of go on anyway, but we'll see. But the main question you might be asking you guys self, by the way, is that I hope that you guys enjoy this live stream, by the way. So remember this, is that if you guys are a new person in the channel, then go on and subscribe. And, if you guys are actually excited for like a lot of interesting things, by the way, likely about the ranks I was talking about from top 5 and top 10 earlier, yes, it's going to probably happen in the forward time, by the way, like way ahead exactly about mention about like, oh, what's the Plants' favorite football players of their favorites exactly that represents the 5 and 10 of those teams exactly to represent. It's gonna kind of be likely actually be on the best versus medium, which is mid, by the way, versus worst. That's like that at the very bottom exactly. So it's gonna probably be like green, yellow, red. But remember, green is good, yellow is mid, and red is worst. So if you guys do or don't know, by the way, then feel free to actually enjoy the recap a little bit while watching basically the Plants' favorite teams exactly and the Zombies' favorite teams as well. So you guys can probably see that exactly. It's probably down on our channel, by the way, just to kind of look on the top 5s and top 10s, by the way. So if you guys are interested to look onto those, by the way, then feel free to take a look at it, by the way, because I mean, I put like a lot of good work a little bit on those top numbers, so that's probably why I put the good amount of them exactly. So if I would be myself, by the way, check those out. So like to be said anyways, it is time to say likewise and beforehand is that if you guys want to see more new videos, then go on and subscribe. Thank you. And anyway, like that being said anyways, I'm going to go ahead and say is give this video a like and comment and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. That way you won't miss a single video that comes on this channel, by the way. And hopefully we'll see what happens anyway in the next live stream or so. But if you guys want to see the next live stream is going to happen pretty soon, and it might happen very soon. That's like the second part of the live stream, which is going to still continue about like the Miami Dolphins topic and the Plants, of course. So there probably might be a second one in there, and you guys might want to see how the second one's going to turn out. So if you guys are ready for the second live stream that might come around, we'll see what happens. Until like what good reason happens, we'll just have to see. But anyway, I guess it's time we shall get going. And if you guys have any questions, by the way, then remember, save those questions in the next live stream. So that way, we'll continue more questions. And yes, we actually did confirm a bit of the conversations about like, oh, the new movie that I want to confirm, by the way, in the community post after I end this live stream. I might actually confirm the post exactly and say, after when I do kind of get things done and situated, by the way, that's still going to kind of be like this year and next year, by the way, 2027. One of those years are kind of like past a little bit and kind of get most stuff done that I actually kind of want to get done with exactly on this channel, by the way, then yes, all that's going to be good, by the way, and all that's going to be good confirmations and stuff. Like, I will add a confirming poll, by the way, by saying is like, oh, when is the movie going to start? But actually saying is like, the Plants and Zombies versus Pennywise, the movie. It's going to be considered either 2028 or 2029 for what you guys actually decide and for what you guys like. But remember, by the way, think wisely and think a bit carefully to know what you guys actually would suggest. But remember, it's about like suggesting a poll. So if you guys would like to suggest the poll, by the way, what would actually be the better year for like the movie to be confirmed? You know, like a horror movie that would be like heroes and villains taking on a horror killer, by the way, by saying is like the plants and zombies versus a horror killer named Pennywise. So if you guys want 2028 or 2029, that's when the confirmation will begin. And remember, there's going to be like a clock that will tick down, by the way. It'll actually be confirmed in 2 minutes of that confirmation on the poll, by the way. But whoever does vote on the poll, by the way, that actually wins, it means the poll will be confirmed and it will actually be approved by me and see what you guys think to see if it's a great, amazing idea. So if you guys think it's a good idea, then that's when the thumbs up are going to be up. So remember, if there's a good idea, then the idea will be confirmed and I'll actually will confirm it, by the way, and say the announcement when I say in a reaction video. That's when I'll pop in and say the video has been confirmed or the movie is confirmed, which I know, like I said, I got like a lot of things to catch on a little bit from stuff exactly, just to get back to some stuff that were actually a bit untouched a little bit. But until, like I said, good things come around, then good things are going to come around for a good year. So hopefully we'll see what 2028 holds us in 2029 as well. So as long as, like I said, as long as everybody is very positive to those 2 years, by the way, of 2028 or 2029, then we can probably see a very interesting impact exactly in a very, very interesting concept exactly. A very interesting, smartific ideas. So that's all I can tell you guys right there. So anyway, with that being said in the way exactly, thank you all very much for watching this live stream. And remember, by the way, that the only weaknesses Pennywise does not like exactly, but remember, the plants or zombies will have to use the weakness that they'll actually have to guess a little while before they get to the end of the scene and actually start weakening the clown, which exactly might weak Pennywise anyway. So if you guys are liking this suggesting ideas, by the way, of 2028 to 2029, then there's your confirmation, by the way. And it will be actually be confirmed in a reaction video. Once like those 2 minutes are up, by the way, it means it reaches down to 0. So that's all I want to let you guys know about. And also the main reason why it's important, by the way, very important, by the way, just to confirm the movie exactly, my own movie for having like the plants and zombies taking on a clown that's a dancing clown that holds a red balloon and actually pretty much just like does any kind of creepiness that Pennywise actually ever does in his time. So he pretty much will do all of that. I mean, trust me, he will do all of that because I mean, that's what his job's probably about, is just, I don't know, creeping people out sometimes. He might creep out anyone else actually, when it comes to a character, by the way, that he might have a bit of like interactions on some characters, but some characters might go on a little bit missing or just, I don't know. It depends. It depends by different conundrums a little bit. It depends by how many roles it goes on about, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, it's going to probably see what everyone's going to be thinking about. We're just going to have to see what happens. But for now, this being said already, we'll see you guys later. And remember this, whatever the next live stream is going to be, the next second live stream is going to happen for like a second one. Is either going to be, yes, it's going to be with the Dolphins one again, and of course, the Plants. And also, we're pretty excited, kind of looking forward to like NFL stuff that, if everybody's excited for NFL, then, we're all kind of excited to see what the Plants' favorite teams, the Dolphins, can probably do, or AKA the Zombies' favorite team, the Bears. We'll see what happens. But for now, like I said, in preseason, we're just going to have to kind of find out and see what happens and see what interesting development is going to probably take of its course, and time is per usual, so we'll see. But as of now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Lord of the Zombies. And that being said, remember is that if you guys enjoy the video, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell each and every time so you don't miss a single video that comes on this channel. And yes, I was about to go ahead and leave exactly, which, yes, for once, I definitely was going to end the live stream, which I'm definitely about to end the live stream. So yes, I do want to thank two people, by the way, that actually made it to this live stream, by the way. That I do want to thank two people that were actually is Jacob G8506. I do appreciate Jacob 8506, by the way, for being in the live stream. Congratulations, I appreciate to Jacob G8506 for being in the live stream. And actually, congratulations. Thank you for being in the live stream. It means a lot. It actually means a lot to being on the channel, by the way. It actually does mean a lot. So, congratulations to Jacob, by the way, that actually did came to the live stream first. And then my Steam friend, by the way, Ramboy, Ramboy 1234 exactly. Yeah, so I do appreciate two people exactly that got to the live stream exactly. Two people do want to appreciate and actually want to say my thanks is appreciation as always. So congrats. So this being said, anyways, and yeah, I'm gonna say, and also Jacob says hi. Yeah, hi Jacob, hi. So anyway, it's about time we're gonna definitely wrap the video up and this live stream as well. So if you guys have any questions, remember you guys can save the questions for later, and then I might respond more answers. By the way, in the next live stream or so, but we'll see. But anyways, this being said, thank you. We'll see you guys later. And yes, the confirmation is gonna happen in 2 minutes probably, or whatever's gonna probably be until I get the post up exactly and the poll. So we're going to have to kind of see. But as of now, see you guys later. Take care as always. Sign off as always as likely to be. So thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye as of now. And I will, like I said, see you guys in the next video. And oh yeah, looks like the XPs have moved, by the way. So looks like Jacob G8506, by the way, got 125 XP. And also got in the lead, by the way, and passed Rambui 1234. Yep, definitely have moved. Exactly. So, congratulations, like I said. Congratulations to Jacob, by the way. And also, like I said, whenever each XP always moves, by the way, it's always on the chat. Most likely, that the only thing that actually does move is the top fans thing that actually moves. So, just for an advice and just for word advice that, it may actually do that sometimes, but it may do that. So, anyways, that being said, see you guys later. And also, I do want to thank you guys very much for the interesting conversations, by the way, about like the predictions about the movie, about we were talking about like the next upcoming project movie that I want to be making, by the way, for this channel, for like our sixth channel, by the way. And yes, this is only going to still be about Plants vs Zombies exactly, because it's going to always stick to be P versus Z, known as Plants vs Zombies topic. So if you guys like that idea, remember, always like always, enjoy the video. And remember, keep supporting this channel, by the way, so that way that we'll keep on going and going and going, and keep on having this channel to keep being amazing exactly. So remember, always support this sixth channel no matter what, and support my other separate channels, so that way they get all good support and amazing, well done support. So that would be the most incredible thing that we'll ever do. So yeah, it would be very incredible. So this being said, now it is time to say thank you for watching this live stream, and we'll see you later. And remember, there's going to be a second live stream, by the way. Second live stream that's going to happen. So that being said, I am the Lord of the Zombies speaking. Ha 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 ha. That's right. I am the Lord of the Zombies. And that being said, see you later. Goodbye for now. Take care. Have a good rest of your evening. Have a good time of your days. And I will see you guys, as always, in the next video. And of course, another live stream here on our sixth channel. That will be a part 2, by the way. There will be a second part, by the way. There will be a second part, by the way. So, that being said, thank you. See you later and goodbye. Take care and sign out. Bye, everyone.